There's a strange little phrase we have all learned to use, guilty pleasure. This is going to be a fun one. We deploy it before we mention the show we love, the album we play in the car when no one is in it with us, the book we have read 4 times, the food we eat in 3 bites when we're all alone. We lodge the phrase into our sentences like a small preemptive apology. I know I shouldn't, but ... And then we say things. This week, I want to ask about the lie inside the apology. Welcome to One Question, a short weekly reflection to help you reconnect with your body, your values, and your truth. This week's question is, what guilty pleasure do you not actually feel guilty about? Not aspirationally, not theoretically, but like diagnostically. Of the pleasures you have been quietly tagging as guilty, which one, on honest inspection, are you not actually guilty about at all? I'll go first. If you've been listening to this podcast over the last few weeks, you might have noticed that I spent an entire episode talking about a cult. It was the FLDS, about Samuel Bateman, and the women who got caught up in that with him. I want to be transparent with you. The reason I had so much to say is partly because the story matters, but it is also because I love cult documentaries with my whole chest. The cultier, the better. There's a man with really weird eyes and claims to be a prophet. Sign me up. A woman with a candle business and 12 followers and matching denim. Yes, please. If there's a compound in the desert or a strange dress code or a charismatic follower with a complicated relationship with the truth, hand it over. I will sit on the couch and knit while I judge. I will say, what is wrong with you? To the people on my screen 17 times in a row, all afternoon. Like a small, joyful incantation. I will narrate the documentary back to the documentary. I am, in this respect, exactly the audience that these sorts of documentaries are made for. And here's the thing. I do not, on close inspection, feel guilty about this at all. Not really, not for a second. I have been calling it a guilty pleasure for years because that is what we call shows in which strangers behave wildly while a sociologist explains in a voiceover. But the guilt is not, in fact, present. I have been mislabeling. The pleasure is real. The guilt is borrowed, which is, it turns out, what almost every guilty pleasure is. The French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu spent his career studying taste. What we like, who likes it, and why. His central argument in a book called Distinction is that our preferences are not natural. They are not personal. They are mostly social. The things we are supposed to enjoy. Opera, literary fiction, single origin coffee, films with subtitles, the kinds of novels that win prizes, signal a particular kind of education or class. The things we are not supposed to enjoy, reality TV, pop music, romance novels, true crime documentaries, and supermarket meal deals, signal something else entirely. And the phrase guilty pleasure is the small linguistic device we have invented to manage the tension between these two things. It says, I know this is below where I'm meant to live taste-wise. I know the optics, but I love it anyway. It is preemptive distancing. It is a tiny apology we lodge into our sentences before anyone gets a chance to judge us. But here's what Bourdieu helps us see. The guilt was never ours. The guilt belongs to the hierarchy. We have inherited it from 1,000 small moments in which we were taught that some pleasures count more than others. And we have been paying a quiet tax on our own joy ever since. The psychologist Paul Bloom, in an amazing book called How Pleasure Works, makes a related point from a different angle. Pleasure, neurologically, is just pleasure. The brain does not know whether you are listening to Bach or to a song from a film you have not seen since 1997. It does not know whether you're watching a French film with subtitles or a documentary about a man with a tiger sanctuary, explaining his ongoing feud with another man with a tiger sanctuary. It just knows this person is enjoying themselves. The dopamine fires. The reward system does a little dance. The pleasure is real, and it's the exact same pleasure. What is not neurological, what is added on by us from the outside, is the layer of judgment we wrap around the pleasure. That little voiceover in our heads that says, this is so silly. This is so beneath me, but I should be reading instead. And I love to read. You all know that. The voiceover is not the pleasure. The voiceover is the social hierarchy, often, quite frankly, the patriarchy, made small, made internal, repeating its own logic inside your skull. So when I ask what guilty pleasure do you not actually feel guilty about, I'm not asking you to commit to anything. I'm not asking you to be brave. I'm asking you to perform a small, honest audit. Take the things that you've been calling guilty pleasures, that show you love, the album you blast when no one's in the car, the novel stacked beside your bed that you swear you'll hide before the company comes over, the food you eat standing up in the kitchen, the hobby everyone in life is just a little bemused by. Hold each one up to the light and ask honestly, am I actually guilty about this, or have I just been calling it guilty? You may be surprised by how few of them survive the question. Here's what I want you to do this week. When you reach for the thing, the show, the song, the book, the snack, pay attention to your body in that moment of contact. Where does the pleasure sit? Is it in your chest, your shoulders dropping, a little smile you make that you didn't know you were making? And then, and this is the practice, do not interrupt it. Do not, in the middle of your joy, mutter the word guilty under your breath. Do not apologize out loud to the dog. Do not preemptively explain yourself to the imaginary critical friend or parent you keep on retainer in your head. Let the pleasure complete its arc all the way to the end without paying the tax. You'll feel the difference. There's a particular ease in unguilted enjoyment. The body settles, the shoulders soften, the pleasure is allowed to be all the way pleasure instead of pleasure with an apology. So this week's invitation is small, joyful, slightly subversive. Ask yourself, what guilty pleasure do I actually not feel guilty about? And then drop the word guilty. Just have the pleasure. Let it be uncomplicated. Tell anyone who asks that yes, in fact, I do love cult documentaries, without the qualifying clause, without the cultural tax. Listen, the cultier, the better. The trashier, the better. The more deliciously joyful and embarrassing, the better. Take the pleasure. Thank you for joining me for One Question. Listen, you are allowed to love what you love. You are allowed to love it loudly in the daylight with no apology. The hierarchy will survive without your contribution. What guilty pleasure do you not actually feel guilty about? Until next week, be kind to yourself. Trust your gut. And always ask better questions.